Today is January the 25th, 2012. My name is Dr. Michael Berna, and I'm here today on behalf of the Library of Congress's Veterans History Project, a project that captures and archives the oral histories of the men and women who served in one or more of our nation's conflicts. We are in Monessen, Pennsylvania today at the Monessen Heritage Museum to interview Mr. John Billy, a veteran of the United States Army Air Force. Welcome, Mr. Billy, and thank you for agreeing to share your military experiences with the rest of the nation.
My pleasure.
Let's begin with your background. You grew up in Monessen, born and raised.
Born, raised, and still live here. I guess I'm going to check out here too.
Well, you must like it here in Monessen.
Obviously, I wouldn't be here this long, right?
Right, right. And when you were growing up, you mentioned earlier that the town was a lot different then.
Yeah, we had. Whenever I was on city council, we had a little over 20,000 people, and after I got off of council, I don't know how many years thereafter. I think in 1985 is when the mill went down. I believe that was a year that the mill shut down, and it just went kablooey. I mean, everything died. Now we're down to a little over 7,000 people. You know, that doesn't even ring a bell to me. I mean, that's ridiculous to even think that from 20-some thousand down to 7,000 we are at, rather. But here we are. We're not the only town that are faced with this same problem. All these steel towns around the valley here, Denora, Aliquippa, you name them, all down the valley. Pittsburgh, for example, they had the same problem. Of course, Pittsburgh didn't lose that many people because, you know, they had other industries down there that kept their population kind of on, pretty nice. But like Aliquippa, they lost quite a bit of people. Braddock lost quite a bit of people. These steel towns that I'm just talking about now are the ones that really, really lost a whole lot of people. And as a result, you know, they're in the same predicament that we're in. You know, we're down to nothing now. We have no industry. Monessen at one time, from the east gate all the way to the west gate, we had nothing but steel mills, employees. We had at one time over excuse me. We had over 5,000 employees, steel workers, different types of steel workers. We had coke workers, we had steel workers, we had fence makers, we had barrel makers, things of that nature. So Monessen was multifaceted as far as in the steel industry. I mean, what they produced.
So when you were growing up, your family, how many people were in your family?
There was 8 of us. I had, let's see, I had 5 brothers and 3 sisters. That's 8 of us. And there's 3 sets of children in our family, by the way. My dad and mother were both married twice. Their husbands, my dad's wife died during the Depression, during the influenza, during the, what do you call that, yeah, I guess it was the influenza. Mm-hmm. And my mother's husband died the same time, during that same era. So and then they met eventually somewhere down along the line, I don't know where, and here they got married. Now, there was 5 of them, okay, and then they had 3 of us. Okay. So they had his, hers, and ours. Okay, so myself, my brother Frank, and my sister Margaret were from the present parents. Okay. Well, of course, they're both dead now. I guess that's about it.
So you went to the Monessen public schools?
I went first to the Catholic school. Then I went to Monessen public school, Monessen High School. Then from there I went into the military.
What made you think, were you drafted or did you enlist?
I was drafted.
You were drafted?
Yeah.
Okay. So how did you feel about being drafted at that time?
How did I feel? I thought it was a patriotic thing to do. Everybody was going into the military. I said, I went down to enlist into the Navy, and then I decided on the way down, I better not. I just better go. You know, I wanted to go into the Air Force is what I wanted, and I wound up there. So anyhow, I didn't get. I was going to go down and enlist in the Navy, but then on the way down, I changed my mind and turned back and waited till I got drafted, and here I went into the Air Force.
Okay.
Army Air Force. There was no Air Corps at that time. That was the Air Force.
Right. That was the beginning of it.
That was the beginning of it.
Right. Right. That was before it went into the Air
Right.
Force.
Right.
So you went to basic training. Did you leave Pittsburgh to go to basic training?
The story is a longer story than that. What happened was, I had a brother that was living that lived in New York. He worked on. He was an electrician. He was a master electrician. He worked on ships. Okay, so one summer when I was when I graduated high school, in my senior year, I went out there for a vacation. I called him up. I said, "Andy, is it okay if I come out and spend a week or two with you?" He said, "Yeah, come on out." So I went out, and a week went by, 2 weeks went by, and I'm still there. So anyhow, he said, "You know what? My birthday was in September, and this was like the first part of August that I was there." So I said, wait a minute. I said, "You know what? I'm getting close to my birthday." I said, "I got to make up my mind whether I'm going to go back to Medicine to be drafted or be drafted from here." So my sister-in-law said, "Well, why don't you just get drafted from here? You're going to go in the military anyhow, no matter where you go. You're going to be in the military." So I said, "Okay." I said, I'll stay here and let them draft me from here." Well, that's what I did. Well, as it was, I was always complaining about having a rapid heartbeat. So I said, "You know what? I got this heart problem." I said, "I don't know if I'm even going to make it into the military." So she said, she was pregnant at the time. She said, "You know what? I have a doctor coming down the latter part of this week. At that time, the doctors used to come to the house to check their patients." So she said, "He's going to come down and check me out, see if everything's okay." He said, "I'll have him check you out too, check your heart out while he's here." I said, "Okay." So when he came, my sister-in-law introduced me to him, and he was what do you call it, OBGYN, but anyhow. So he said, "You're going into the military." I said, "Well, I'm going to be drafted in next month, I guess. I'll be drafted, rather." So he said, I said, rather, "I don't know if I'm going to make it." I said, "I got this darn heart problem." He said, "Is there a pair of steps out there?" I said, "Yeah, there is." "Why?" He said, "How about going out and run up and down them steps a couple of times, and then come back in and let me check you after you have a rapid heartbeat." So I did. So he checked me out after I ran up and down a few times. He said, "Hell, you're not going into no military." He said, "Whenever you come out, whenever you go and get your physical, after you fail," he said, "you come to see me." I said, "Okay." Well, as it was, here I am, 60-some years later. I didn't fail. I made it. Imagine that.
Yeah.
But anyhow, so when I come out of service, I went up to see him, and he was still there, obviously. And I said, "Doc," I said, "You know what? You didn't give me a very good, what do you call it, prognosis here. You told me I wasn't going to make it. And here I am, in the military, overseas, back home, and discharged, and here I am going back to Pennsylvania." So he said, "Do you mean to tell me they drafted you?" I said, Well, yeah. Well, what am I going to lie for? Yeah, I was in the service." So he said, "Well, I don't know who the hell who passed you, but you should have never passed." I said, "Well, whether I should have and whether I shouldn't have, it's two different stories, but I passed." So that's how I wound up in the military. I got drafted from New York. Instead of coming back here to register for the draft, I just stayed there and got drafted from there. I didn't know the guy in the front of me. I didn't know the guy in the back of me. I didn't know anybody.
Where did you go to basic training?
Well, first of all, I went to basic training at where's the money at in Louisville, Kentucky?
Fort Knox.
Fort Knox.
Okay.
Okay, now that was an armored outfit. Okay, there. So I said, that ain't no Air Force. What the hell am I going there for? So whenever I went to basic training, I went in to see the commanding officer. I said, "Sir, can I speak to you for a moment?" He said, "Yeah, go ahead. What's your problem?" I said, "You know what? I thought I was going to get into the Air Force, and here I am in the what do you call this military thing? Tanks, the tank outfit." I said, "I wanted to get into the Air Force." He said, "Well, you're going to wind up in the Air Force, so just don't get excited." He said, "We'll make sure that you go into the Air Force." Well, make a long story short, they got me into the Air Force. Whenever I was in the 12th grade in high school up here, the teacher was teaching us Morse Code. Okay, why? I had no idea why. But I later found out when I was in the military. So whenever we went in in what do you call it, Kentucky, Fort Knox,
right?
We got a test. So they give us a test to do, and would you know it? Lo and behold, guess what was on that test? Morse Code.
Amazing.
Amazing, unbelievable. So I said to myself, holy hell, how the hell did this happen? But anyhow, it happened. And what happened was I got a very good grade. So about a week later, I got a call in to come down to the orderly room. The commanding officer wanted to talk to me. And I said, well, what the hell did I do wrong now? So I went down and I said, yes, sir, John Billy reporting. So he said, have a seat. He said, I sat down and he said, you took a test. When you took that test, part of it was Morse code. How did you get that grade? Well, I said, well, what do you mean, how did I get it? I said, you know what? About 2 months ago, we were studying Morse code in high school. Here I am now in the military, and the thing's still fresh in my mind about the dot and dash. So, so he said, you sure you didn't cheat? You didn't take somebody else? You didn't cheat off of somebody? I said, how could I cheat from somebody else? I said, you know, that's silly to even ask something like that. I said, well, check somebody that was around me wherever I was sitting to see what grades they had. They couldn't find nobody because nobody had the same grade that I had.
Right.
Well, anyhow, to make a long story short, they were after me for weeks on end to go to radio school. Mm-hmm. I said, I don't want to go to radio school. I said, I don't want that. So they said, well, you know, when you graduate, you'll be there for at least 6 months to a year at school. Mm-hmm. He said, and when you're done, we're going to assign you to a base somewhere else other than this place. And he said, you're going to be stationed there for a good while. I said, well, I don't want that. No, I don't want that. So they kept after me, but I kept telling them no. So they quit bothering me after that. So I wound up in the Air Force. I was a supply clerk. I was a typist. When I was overseas, myself and the sergeant, supply sergeant, were the two people that lived in his Quonset. It was our supply room.
Mm-hmm. And where were you overseas?
Okinawa.
Okinawa.
So the war was over by then already. Okay. So anyhow, when I was there, we were like the guys that took over from the people that were in combat. What do you call it?
Reinforcements?
Not reinforcements. There's another name for it. Oh, what the hell's the name for it? Come on.
But you took over for them.
Well, yeah, you know, they were in the military during the war, And here we came over there, and we took their place, and they got discharged and went home.
Mm-hmm.
So anyhow, you know what I'm talking about. So I was there in that camp until I was overseas for about a year. Not quite a year. Good old Harry Truman was the President of the United States. Good old Harry Truman come up with a bill in Congress, and it would pass, and it passed both houses unanimously to discharge the veterans, the World War II veterans. Not in the way to how did that go now? What the way there was a reason why they discharged us. Now you know what? Now I can't think of what the heck. You got me stuck here now.
But nevertheless, they discharged.
They discharged us, yeah.
But
so I got discharged, and I come home. I was only in the service like 17 months. That's all I was in.
And the year of that was in Okinawa.
Most of it was on Okinawa.
And the Air Force base in Okinawa, what
it was in the 8th Air Force.
8th Air Force.
Yes.
And so you had the big bombers over there.
Yeah, we had the B-29s.
Mm-hmm.
The B-29s. When they transferred the B-29s from France over to Okinawa, the first plane that came over there that was supposed to land there landed, but it overshot the field. Instead of going back up again, he continued to go down, and he turned over. He upset the damn thing. All of them were killed on it. All the people that were on that plane were killed.
My goodness.
And one of them was a general that was killed. I have his name at home, but I don't know what it is off the top of my head. I don't know what the name is.
Did they have to extend the runway after that?
Yes, they did. Absolutely. Oh yeah. It was Kadena Airfield was the airfield where they landed, and where they upset. Now I don't know whether it wasn't the extension of it wasn't done immediately. What happened was, I really don't know where they landed those planes after that. Other planes, the B-29s from over France over here to Okinawa. I really don't know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then they would fly from Okinawa to the States?
No, they wouldn't fly to the States. No, why would they fly to the States?
I thought maybe they brought them back to the Air Force Base because they have different command bases here in the United States as well.
Well, you know what we had. My company commander was a second lieutenant. Could you believe that? But anyhow, he flew his plane to Hawaii to get supplies for our company on Okinawa. I guess what? I was in the Air Force. I've never been in an airplane.
Never in an airplane?
Never been in an airplane. Till this day, I have never been in an airplane. Would you believe that?
How did you get to Okinawa? Ship?
Ship, yeah. We got USS Rodman. It was a Navy transport ship. Took us over. We went from Seattle, Washington. We went down the coast and then out to sea. And then we hit a tidal wave about 800 miles inland. Out to sea, rather. And that thing, you know what? I was praying for that thing to sink. We were so sick, it was unbelievable. Even a veteran Navy guys were throwing up. Were sicker than dogs. That thing was underwater more than it was on top of the water. Unbelievable, unbelievable. That was the greatest storm, recorded storm, until much later another storm came up that superseded that, and that was supposedly the biggest one. But that was one heck of a storm. I'm telling you.
Did you have a warning that the storm was
coming?
Yeah.
They had a warning. Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So I was on guard duty. I'm on the back of the ship, and when the Marines were on guard, they pulled guard duty on the ship. So the Marine sergeant came up to me. I was on the back of the ship, and he said, "You better get inside." He said, everybody has to be indoors. A terrific storm is coming up. So I said, well, okay, let me get out of here. Let me get inside. Well, I got inside, and it didn't take, well, maybe 4, 5, 6 hours later, the storm started brewing up, and then the ship was rocking. And then what happened was, whenever the ship would go down and then go up, and then when it go back down again, the bow would hit the water, and it would make one hell of a noise, because the screw of the ship, the propellers,
Right.
would leave the water, and brrr, they would make this crazy noise.
Mm-hmm.
So that was damn frightening. I'm telling you, I was scared to death.
I bet. How long did that storm last?
Well, it didn't really last that long. Probably, how long did it last? 8, 10 hours at the most.
Well, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what? It scared the life out of me.
Mm-hmm.
But anyhow, a couple of us were buddies that we were together in Seattle in the camp, getting ready to go overseas. These guys were already throwing up. They were already sick, and I'm still macho. I'm a brave guy. I didn't get sick yet, you know. So I said, "You guys want something to eat?" I said, "How about if I bring you some pork chops or something?" No, don't bring no damn pork chops. So anyhow, it wasn't very long thereafter. This macho guy got sick too. I mean, I threw up, man. I was sick as a dog. But you know, it didn't last very long. But that was so damn scary. It was really spooky. Was really what it was. And then the lights would go out. You know, the ship would go down, and then back up again. And then the lights would go out. And then back down again it would go. Scared the living daylights out of us.
And this was on your way to Okinawa.
It's going overseas, right?
Right.
It was like 800 miles from Hawaii. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
In other words, 800 miles and we would have been near Hawaii.
Right.
Terrible. That they call those, no, I'm never going to think of the name. Over here we call them typhoons. Over there they have another name for them.
Okay.
Anyhow, but you know what? I said, please, dear Lord, either sink this damn thing or make it get straighten it out, one or the other. I said, we can't handle too much more of this. And it was really scared.
And I bet there was a great sense of relief when the storm passed.
Yeah, it sure was. You know what? We used to eat. We ate 2 times a day. That's all. There was over 5,000 people on that boat.
Mm.
So we ate morning and supper. Because by the time the morning last guy from the breakfast ate, it was already time to start supper.
Mm-hmm.
That's how many people there were on there. 5,000 people.
That kitchen was constantly going.
Constantly going. Oh my.
Mm-hmm. So you never made it onto the airplane. You just
never got in there.
Ships.
You know what? This guy, he said, what the hell kind of Air Force guy are you? You've never been in an airplane. I said, well, you know what? There's other things to do besides flying in an airplane. I said, you like to fly? Go ahead and fly. I don't want to fly.
So you were a supply clerk.
I was a supply clerk.
And what kind of duties were those?
What kind of duties did I do? Whenever men would need clothing, okay, so if we had their sizes, we'd give them the clothing, and we'd mark down every time we would dispense some stuff. We'd mark down what we dispensed of, and whenever the captain would go back to Miami to get a fresh supply of stuff to bring back to Okinawa, he would include the stuff that we had given him that we dispensed of and we were out of, and he would bring them back. Then he would bring back some booze too.
That was a good thing.
Three feathers. You ever hear of 3 feathers?
Yes, I have.
Terrible booze. But anyhow, that's what. You know what? He was a heck of a nice guy. He was from New York, Endicott, New York is where he was from. Now, why do I remember that? because there was an Endicott Johnson shoe store here in town.
Yep, I remember Endicott
right downstairs.
Johnson. Yep.
But anyhow,
well, so how many people were on Okinawa? How big was that base?
Okinawa wasn't a very big island. It wasn't very big at all. I can't answer that question. How many people were there really? Now. Well, now they got it fixed up. It's a beautiful place. They tell me. People that have been there since I was there, obviously. I was there in '45, and since then, of course, when I was there wasn't a building standing. There wasn't a building standing. At least I didn't see any wherever I went. And I used to drive down to the supply clerk down in at Naha, which was a base for our local supplies. Okay, that if we would run short between the time that this pilot went to Miami to get our supplies, and if they had some stuff, we would get it off of them, and then we would replace it when we got our supplies from Hawaii.
Okay.
But they say now that place is it's beautiful.
Is that right? Kind of, well.
But you know what? They still get them storms. They're not typhoons. I forget what they're called. But anyhow, when I was there, we had one of those storms. In fact, I had a terrible pain in my side. It worked its way all the way down my back, down to my groin area. And I told my company commander, I said, "Hey, Captain," I said, I got a hell of a problem. I said, "I don't know what this pain is," but so he said. So he got a hold of my supply sergeant and another guy that put me on his 3/4-ton truck and take me down to the base hospital, which was a Quonset. So they took me down and they put me in there, and there was a nurse. She was from Harrisburg, of all places. So she said, "Your name is?" And I told her my name. And "What are you here for?" And I told her all that stuff. So she said, "We're supposed to get a typhoon." It wasn't a typhoon, whatever that name was. So I said, "Yeah, they're getting ready for it." I said, they got. I see whenever I was brought in here, I seen guys working, putting cables on the Quonset over the top and put pegs on one side, hook it up, and then throw the cable over and hook it on the other side. So she said, "I'm so scared. I don't know what I'm going to do with my." I said, "Nothing you can do. Just grin and bear it. You're going to do the same thing I'm going to do. You're going to hope and pray everything's going to be all right." So anyhow, it worked out okay. But she was scared, man. She was crying like a little kid.
Is that right? Yeah. So how many times did you experience these
the typhoons
on the island? So did they come?
They would be like here, like on the East Coast. A couple times a year at the most.
Mm-hmm. There'd be a season that they would
Yeah,
come?
that's exactly right. A season of the year.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And what was the weather like in Okinawa?
Okinawa was a terrible, terrible hot. Man, was it hot over there. Wow. You know what? In August, I used to wear flip-flops, shorts, and what do you call it? T-shirt. Not a T-shirt, but
strap shirt.
Well, you put your sleeves through, and you what do you call them?
Just your button.
No, it's not a T-shirt. It's okay. You know what I'm talking about now. You put your arms through it. It's got.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's just
can't,
straps here.
My name for describing things is terrible. But anyhow, it was so stinking hot over there you couldn't tolerate it. But anyhow, whenever we got out of there, when we were sent home, we left there. We landed underneath the Golden Gate Bridge Christmas Eve. Would you believe that?
Christmas
And
Eve.
we parked right under the bridge. And we had the Navy guys decorated the ship. They put the lights over and above and down the front. It was beautiful. But they wouldn't let us get off until the following day, until Christmas Day. So we got off on Christmas Day. And I lost my money. I gambled on a ship. You know, everybody that had a blanket would have a game going, dice game.
Uh-huh.
So I got in a game with two of my buddies. We had $300, he and I. So I said to him, you know what? You bet him and I'll roll the dice. Okay. So I rolled the dice. First dice, crap. Half of it's gone. So I said, Jesus God Almighty. So I said, should we go for the other half now? Go ahead for the other half. So I went for the other half. Boxcars.
Oh my!
2 rolls of the dice, $300 gone. We hit Frisco, didn't have a dime.
Oh.
So they give us the partial pay. When we got off the ship on Christmas Day, they gave us $25 partial pay. Big deal, right?
And $300 was a lot of money.
$300 was big money then.
Yeah.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
But anyhow.
Well, so then when they passed the bill to get rid of, or let everyone out of the military, what was the feeling about that? Did you expect that to happen?
No, we didn't expect it at all. But we were very, very pleasantly surprised to find out that Truman signed this bill.
Yeah.
To discharge, that's what he discharged, the draftees. He wanted an all-volunteer army.
Okay.
That's what it was.
Okay.
So he discharged all the draftees.
Okay.
Okay, and had an all-volunteer army.
So they brought you in against your will and then kicked you out against your will.
You got it right. What did you say about kicking you out?
Well, they discharged you when you.
That was not against my will getting discharged.
Well, but they made it happen.
They made it happen, yeah. I was tickled to death to get the hell out of there. I didn't mind the army. I really, and as a matter of fact, I kind of enjoyed it. But to make an army, to make a career out of the military wouldn't be my cup of tea.
That's not for you.
No, that isn't my.
Mm-hmm.
That isn't for me. No way.
Too regimented, or?
Too regimented. Too military. You got to do everything they tell you, when they tell you, how to do it. You know, the whole 10 yards. You got to do everything they tell you to do.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
At that time. Now it's altogether different. Now, you've got complete different military.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have the army barracks no more like we used to have.
Thankfully.
They don't have no more barracks.
Right. Right.
So, but anyhow.
Well, then it wasn't long after that. Then the Korean War started.
Korean War started in 1952.
I think it's 50.
50 was it?
50, 1950. I think it lasted for 3 years, from 50 to 53. But I was just wondering,
Yeah, you're right. You're right. Because I'm thinking about my brother. My brother went in 52.
Okay, he was towards the tail end of it there.
Right.
But you had grown up with World War II, and then you went into the military post-war, and then here comes the Korean War. How did the American people feel about Korean War after all that just had happened?
Feel about the Korean War?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't follow your questioning.
Well, I mean, back in World War II, right? The country was at war, and people, a lot of veterans.
I know what you're saying, but how do I know?
Well, what did people around you talk about the Korean War? For example, when people talk today about the war over in Iraq.
Yeah, but at that time the times were different than they are today. There was no talk about, well, what the hell, we back in another war again or something like that.
You didn't hear that?
No, we didn't hear that.
Okay.
No.
Okay. It was just.
I didn't hear it anyhow.
Okay. So then after you landed in San Francisco, then did you come back to?
I came back. I got discharged at Fort Dix, New Jersey. Whenever I was there, I brought back from overseas. I brought back 2 not jackets, but like coveralls.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they were gabardines.
Okay.
They had pockets everywhere. But anyhow, here I am. I'm waiting on a corner. Here comes an MP walking down the street, and I had my duffel bag on the ground. I wasn't going to hold it. So I had it on the ground waiting for the bus to come to take me into town, into Trenton, New Jersey. So he said, "Sergeant, what do you got in that bag?" I said, "My stuff my personal stuff." He said, "How about let me see what you got in there." I said, "There it is, go ahead." So here I had them two outfits in there. So he took them out. Like I said, it was raining. And the son of a gun, he threw them coveralls right into that damn pile of water. I said, "Now, did you get a kick out of that? You know how long I carried that? I carried that from Okinawa all the way to here to see you throw it in that damn pile of water." I said, "I hope you got a thrill of that. Don't be smart," he said, "or I'll lock you up." "Lock me up for what?" So that was the end of that conversation. But he said, "Get on your bus and get into town." Imagine that. I carried him all the way from Okinawa to New Jersey, and that son of a gun had to throw it in a pile of water.
Oh, my.
Isn't that terrible? And it was probably because he was black. At that time, you had the black. They didn't have as much freedom as they have now.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't believe what I was seeing.
Right.
This guy throws that. They were beautiful, gabardine. One was like a dark green,
mm-hmm.
and one was a real light green. I'm looking around to see if I can see anything here. No.
And so that's where they stayed, in the puddle.
They stayed. I just left. What the hell am I going to do with them?
Right. They're ruined.
They ruined them. They ruined both pairs.
Mm-hmm. So then you made your way back from there to Fort Dix, into New Jersey, and then was that where you left to come home from New Jersey?
No, I went from there. I went to my brother's place, and he lived in Long Island, New York.
Back to New York again.
Yeah, so I went to see him. I went there for a couple of days, and it had like a family reunion there. Now that's where I left from, and that's where I went back to.
Mm-hmm.
So he said, "Here's a soldier coming," and he was supposed to go into the Navy. In fact, he passed his physical. Okay, now this was during in 1943, I think it was. Okay, he passed the physical and was ready to go. He went roller skating with his kids, fell and broke a damn leg. That was the end of his military career.
Wasn't meant to be.
Wasn't meant to be.
Mm-mm.
So that was it for him.
Now, when you were in the military, did you run across anyone else from Monessen at all?
The only closest one I met was a guy overseas from Fairhope.
Okay.
That's as close as I got to anybody that I knew.
Okay.
I didn't know the guy. I'm sorry, I didn't know him. But somebody said, "Hey, there's a guy living. There's a guy that's in that company down there. He's from around where you're from."
Okay.
I said, "What's his name?" So they told me his name. I said, "You know what? That name's familiar." So I said, "Where's it located?" And he told me where, and I went down, and I'm looking around, and I found him. So I said, "Hey, how you doing?" "Okay, how you?" And we got to talking. So that was about the extent of it, He was on fire duty that day. He was taking care of the fires. Imagine that, taking care of the fires overseas in Okinawa. Okay, now, daytime it was atrociously hot, and at nighttime you had to have a fire. But anyhow, we got the BS in there, and how long you been here and all that crap. What outfit are you in? And all regular chit chat.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I said, "Oh boy, nice to see you." But that's as close as I got to anybody that I knew.
And then you came back home to Monessen.
And then I come back to good old Monessen.
And it was still hopping at that time.
Monessen was a hopping town at that time. Hell yeah! Oh my! That was in '47 when I got discharged. I got discharged January the 27th, '47. Okay, and it was a hopping town then. I went into the military on November the 9th of '45. So it was 2 months after the war was over.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but in the military, the war wasn't legally over until 1946, December of '46. So I was considered a World War II veteran, being that I went in when I did go in.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how that happened. Mm-hmm. And I got discharged January the 27th, 47.
Mm-hmm.
So, are we still going to talk some more?
Well, let me ask you this.
Go ahead, talk.
What would you like to add? What did you forget to tell us, or something about the military, or anything at all in general about the military that you want to mention, and kind of as we wind down here?
Such as?
Well, did you? It doesn't sound like you really enjoyed the military.
No, I really didn't. I really didn't. I told you that.
Yeah. So, were there any? Can you remember any times where you did have some fun or some enjoyment while you were in?
Yeah, you know what? I had a couple of buddies. Whenever I was in a supply room as a clerk, well, I had the okay to take the various vehicles. Vehicles rather. I could take a Jeep. I could take a 3/4 ton truck, and I could take a duck. You know what a duck is?
I do.
Okay. So this one day, the guy said, my buddies said, "Why don't you get the duck and bring it down, and we'll take a ride out in the ocean?" I said, "Well, what do you mean you're going to take a ride in the ocean?" "Well, we'll take a little ride." I said, "Oh my!" I said, I think that's a bad idea." But the more they talked, they convinced me to go ahead. So I went and got the duck, took it down, picked him up, took it down to the ocean, and I started in. And I'm going and going. And I said, "No, I got to turn around, man." I turned around and I started heading back. Well, by that time, the sun was already setting, okay? And it was getting kind of spooky. Like I said, "Jesus Christ, what am I doing here? I'm gonna get this thing out in the ocean. We're all gonna die." So I said, "You guys are crazy, you know that." I said, you guys talked me into this bullshit. Now you're going to kill all of us." But anyhow, I got the thing back into shore, and I just took that thing straight to the company motor pool and left it there. I said, "And don't bother me no more about no damn vehicles. I don't want no more ducks to go out into the ocean." But that island, Buckner Bay. General Buckner was killed there at that bay. It is a beautiful area, real big area, and I can see why they named it for him. But anyhow, it was really a gorgeous area.
Mm-hmm.
It was really, how would I say it, like a resort area.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
That's what it looked like.
Yeah, yeah.
Other than that, as I said a while way back when, I didn't see one damn building standing over there the whole time I was there. Everything was blown down. Everything was just blowed to hell and back.
Huh. All you had were your Quonset huts.
All we had was our Quonset hut, right? Well, at first, before I got into to be a supply clerk, I was sleeping in a tent. Okay, and in my outfit there was a bunch of rebels from the south in that outfit. I said, "Oh my, look at this." So anyhow, I was only there. I was only in that tent maybe a month, and then this opening came up, supply clerk. I signed a bid, and I got the job. So I was tickled to death to get away from them rebels from the south. You know, they were goofy, man. But anyhow, that's how I wound up as a supply clerk.
And you finished private first class?
I was private first class, John F. Billy.
There you go.
197206654.
Amazing how you don't forget that, huh?
You don't never forget your numbers.
Never forget that.
Never. You can live to be 100. You'll never forget them.
Well, that's a good thing.
I never did anyhow. Most people don't.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
you almost have to have it.
That's who you are.
Yeah, that's who you are. Is right.
Right. When they say you're just a number.
That's it. That's what you are. You're just a number.
Just a number. But
it's you know what I said. You know, I didn't like the Army. I shouldn't have said that. I didn't mind the military, but I wouldn't want it as a career.
Fair enough.
Is what I think I said that a while ago too. I couldn't make that a career. No way.
Well, it's not for everyone.
No, hell no, not for me, and not for everyone is right. most of the guys that were in my outfit, they couldn't wait to get the heck out of the Army. They were tickled to death whenever Truman signed that bill getting rid of all the draftees and making it a career Army.
That was a happy ship on the
That
way
was
back.
a happy ship, man. We sang all the way home.
Yeah. Now, when you came back to San Francisco, did you go to the top of the Mark?
To top of the what?
Top of the Mark.
No.
There was a hotel there.
No, when we got to Frisco, we landed there, like I said, Christmas Eve about 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
It was already dark by then already. And so we couldn't get off the ship till the following day, till Christmas Day.
Right.
So they give us, on the way out, all you guys that need some money, get in this line. All you don't need no money, get on that line. So I got on that line.
You needed some
I needed
cash.
some money. So anyhow, so then I got into town. I called my mother and dad at home, and they were tickled to death that I finally got home. So, not home, but back in the States.
Yeah, sure.
So, it, in a way, it was a very exciting experience. It was something that I would never again see in my life,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't, obviously. And something that I guess you long to see, but you don't know what you're going to see.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the right way to put it?
Yeah, sure. You don't know what's on the other
Right.
side.
You don't know what's on the other side.
Right.
So,
Well,
but you know what? We had a guy that spoke in my group that I took up to high school, that spoke to the 12th grade class.
Hmm?
Remember I told you about that teacher?
Sure.
This guy was on Okinawa in combat. So he was one of the speakers that volunteered to come up to school to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I knew he was very sentimental. I knew that. I should have never called on him. But like a dummy, I did. But so I said, the next speaker is going to be Mike Yeshko. You know Mike Yeshko?
Mm-hmm.
So Mike got up, stood in the front of the class, he gave a salute to the students, and then he started his speech. He didn't say 20 words, and he broke down and started crying like a kid. What happened was Mike, when he was in combat, there was 2 guys alongside of him as they were going towards his pillbox, and all of a sudden he heard a boom. Then he started talking to the guy. What happened? They ain't there. They were blown to bits.
Mm.
So I said, then when he started crying, I went out in the hall with him. I said, Mike, what happened? He said, you remember that story I told you about them guys, them 2 guys that were blown to bits, to pieces? He said, that came right to my mind. I couldn't help it. He said, I couldn't hold it back. I had to break down.
Mm-hmm.
But there are cases like that. There's most guys don't like to talk about their experience.
That's right.
Okay, most guys.
Right.
Mike wanted to volunteer to show the kids what he went through.
Sure.
But he couldn't carry it through
Right.
because he broke down in between.
No, he's not the only one that's done that. That's not unusual.
So, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
But anyhow, hell of a nice guy. Mike is a Marine. He lives and sleeps and dies and everything else is a Marine Corps supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Everything's a Marine for him. He's strictly a Marine. Don't talk about Army. Don't talk about Navy. I'm a Marine. So
that's
anyhow,
all
one hell of a nice guy. Nice
Yeah.
guy. You know what? Mike is 87 or 88 years old now. At that time, he might have been probably, that's about 6 years ago. So that was like 81, 82.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'll never forget, how he broke down. It just tore me up. I should have never called on him. Darn it. I can kick my butt every time I think about that.
Well, we don't know those things.
I didn't know that was going to happen,
That's
obviously.
right. That's right.
But it did happen, and it had to happen to my good old buddy Mike. So anyhow, that's the history of my experience with the military.
Well, it's a very interesting experience, and I appreciate you coming to share it with us today. And
some of the things I couldn't remember, like the names of the shirts and T-shirts and whatever. I can't remember a lot of names of stuff.
I can't remember a lot of things either. Don't feel bad.
So
you remembered quite a bit, and we appreciate you coming and sharing your story. And on behalf of the country, thank you for your service to the country, Mr. Billy.
Thank you very much.
Greatly
Thanks
appreciate it.
for having me. I appreciate it.
And we're glad to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All righty.